So now what you need to do is you need to switch off your brain. Okay? Wait a minute. Okay, switch it back on. Okay. We're still talking about density fronts, by the way. Okay. There's a different type of fronts. They are so-called tidal mixing front. Tidal mixing front. So let's see what creates that. So you know a little bit about tides, but the key part is actually that tidal currents tend to be stronger, more energetic, swifter in shallower water. Shallower water have stronger tidal flow. The tidal flows, horizontal flows, they interact with the seafloor. And if they are strong enough, they actually can produce mixing, turbulence, and they can mix the entire water column, surface to the bottom. So if you now have very strong currents in shallower water and creating mixing and less strong, weaker currents in deeper water, you can actually produce a front. So this is shown here in these sketches. On one side, and we're talking about the times of the year where you actually normally have stratification, temperature stratification. So we are at mid-latitudes, say spring time creates stratification. Okay, and so you have warmer water sitting near the surface. So this is an example here, referring to the North Sea. Okay, warm water near the surface, colder water near the bottom, but where the tidal currents are very strong, you have mixing. So in shallow regions, you have mixing from the surface to the bottom. Okay, you can see that here? All right. Okay, you can see a little sketch. And this is what we call a front. You can see there's front, okay, horizontally, a narrow zone on scales less than a few kilometers across. Okay? Very, very turbulent regions. And they now depend on two features. So they depend on the tidal currents and stratification. Again, during winter they don't exist because during winter time you have a well-mixed water column and so on. So again, let's look at two examples. One is in the North Sea and in particular Irish Sea. And this is the location of, here are the different zones that can be identified. There are different methods by which you can do this, create these maps, but I'm not going into the detail. You essentially have regions which are always stratified in, and we're talking about the warmer times of the year, okay, not winter time. Okay, so you have stratified, and then you have a mixed regions. The red zones are the mixed region, and then you have transitional. And transitional means that there is seasonal changes of the location of the front. You also can have the tides are not always the same speed. There's also a so-called spring neap tide cycle that varies. So the fronts actually move a little bit around. And you can identify these fronts in the very productive fishing zones, in particular in the Irish Sea. Okay? Tidal mixing, very important feature. Okay, so let me just get rid of the sounds. Okay, all right. So just another local example, and this has been done in the past, is also Bass Strait produces tidal mixing fronts on either side of the entrances. So Bass Strait is a strait. It's not semi-enclosed, it's open on both sides. And this one shows you the water depth. Okay, water depth, 60 to 80 meters in the center. It's a little bit deeper basin, but shallower on both sides. Okay, this is, there's some island chains, King Island here on that side, and you can see it's shallow, 40 to 60, a little bit less deep. Okay, and you can work out from looking at the tides in the region that actually on both sides here, the tides actually produce a tidal mixing, steering on both sides. Okay, And this is shown on this map. A little sketch from the side, illustrating that you have reduced water depth, and then you can work out in terms of the knowing what the tidal current speeds are, and in terms of water depth, there is a method you can sort of predict where would you get the tidal mixing. You can see it here from this is top view on both sides of Bass Strait, and these are actually observations of showing a more intense vertical mixing on both sides. And this is one example that you have tidal mixing fronts in Bass Strait. The significance is not that clear in terms of the fishery. I'm unsure of how much it actually benefits the fishing activity, the fishing end. Okay, so these are examples of tidal mixing fronts.